Okay, so today we're going to look at more ions. These are not periodic. You cannot read them off the periodic table. And they're listed on the back of your ion chart that you received in class. So please flip it over and let's take a look. So there are four transition elements that do not change um, like the other transition elements. And there they are: silver, nickel, zinc, and cadmium. Now, the truth is, nickel does have a different ion, but it's like less than 1% of all the nickel out there in the real world. So most people just go nickel and they put Ni 2 plus for the charge. So you need to know these. And then polyatomic cations, ammonium, we've already talked about. Mercury 1, this is another transition element. And mercury 1 is Hg2 with a 2 plus charge. When we get to talking about other transition elements, we'll come back to this one. But there it is on your polyatomic ions. It is the only transition element that shows up as a polyatomic cation. Then there's a bunch of anions you need to know. All right, so I'm going to say them for you so you can hear what they say. It's acetate, chromate, dichromate, cyanide, and hydroxide we've seen before. Permanganate, peroxide, oxalate, and thiocyanate. All right. Now, here's the thing that you need to work on today. We're going to be adding hydrogen to any anion that has a -2 or -3 charge. When we do that, we're going to be adding a proton, because that's essentially what hydrogen is, just the proton, and it's going to be sharing those electrons because all of these anions, polyatomic anions, are covalently bonded inside. And because it's adding a proton, we're going to change the charge by 1 plus. So when we write the name, we're going to write hydrogen in front of it, and let's look at some examples. Okay, so carbonate is CO3 with a 2 negative charge. If I make hydrogen carbonate, I've added a proton, the hydrogen nuclei, and I've changed it to 2 minus, and add a positive charge, you get 1 minus for the charge of this anion. Right, so the H, the C, the O3s, those are covalently bonded together and they make one anion. You're going to treat it like you just did any other polyatomic anion. It's called hydrogen carbonate. That's 2 words, but it's still just one anion. If you go to the grocery store, you will find it as bicarbonate, as in sodium bicarbonate or baking soda. But the new name that we're using is hydrogen carbonate. So what is SO4 2 minus? I'll give you a minute to think about that. You can pause it, maybe write down what you think it is. Okay. Well, the answer is that is sulfate. And then if I add the hydrogen to it, I'm going to change it by 1. So I'll get -1 with an H in front of it. And what are we going to call that? Well, we're going to call that hydrogen sulfate. And so let's look at a couple more. What is phosphate? You can look it up on your chart if you haven't memorized it yet. And that's PO4 with a 3 minus charge. I put hydrogen with it, and I get HPO4 with a 2 negative charge because it now has an extra proton. Okay, so that's the end of this little bit of notes. We really only had to write down the last part. And you now can do the more ion worksheet. See you at school.